ladies and gentlemen, friends. First of all, let me congratulate Economic Times Group for coming up with such an important summit on SDGs. And the two speakers and before that our Honorable Minister has already laid how important SDGs are for all of us. And then, but still, we don't see many of the summits focus so much directly on the SDGs. We have conferences on different topics or different sector. So I think it's a very, very good opportunity for all of us to join hands and then think about it, what we are doing and how we are contributing or how we can contribute more for commitments which we have all made, all the countries have made towards achieving these SDGs by 2030. I would very briefly tell you about our experience of dealing with a very large river rejuvenation program and then how these components of this program take us closer to achieving some of these SDGs. River Ganga, I think many of you are quite familiar, but this is a river which is our national river. This is a kind of lifeline for our country. And then there have been several attempts, there have been several discussion about cleaning of this river. Now, let me tell you when, and I take cue from one of my previous predecessor, Mr. John. He led, in the end of the presentation, he laid down some 10 principles about meeting the SDGs, the top 10 insights. And while he was making that presentation, as I was looking at our story of Namami Gange, actually several things come inbuilt into this story as well. So when we looked at Namami Gange in 2014-15, we tried to look at what has happened earlier and then what we can do which would be little different from what has been happening since 85 onwards. And then it was conceptualized as a kind of integrated program, integrated mission, and then the word is rejuvenation. So it's not cleaning, though in the name of my organization, it's National Mission for Clean Ganga, but I think we are going much beyond just cleaning the dirt or cleaning the filth which we see around us. Now, how significant is it? Now, this is a basin, Ganga River Basin, which is the largest in our country. 43%, 45% of the population lives in this Ganga Basin. 26% of land, very large agricultural dependency production comes from this basin. We have a very large number of very rich biodiversity, very rich aquatic life is there in this river. So if we do something here and if we succeed, as we have been discussing since morning, that SDGs are important for India and India is also important for SDG. Similarly, Ganga is very important for India, and if we achieve this mission, and I will tell you with few examples, certainly it will help India in achieving its SDG commitments to a very, very large extent. So that's a kind of thing we have. Now, when we look at river, often we look at water and we think our whole approach of the river is looking at water and trying to harness this water for different needs, agriculture, drinking needs or industrial needs, recreational needs. But to understand it, to understand river, actually we have to look at river as a system, and it is a system. It's not only water. Water is one, perhaps the most important component of this river, but river has sediments, river has a life. River is something very akin to a living being. It has a beginning, it has an end. It meets lots of people. It changes. Like in our life, from childhood till different age, we have different characteristics. The river also acquires different characteristics. And to rejuvenate a river of this size, this is a 2,500 kilometer plus length river, very, very volatile river. It changes its course. It has so many characteristics apart from, I mean, we all know it's how important it is for the religious and cultural and social point of view also for us. The way we use this river is also very different from several of the European rivers, the way they use. So rejuvenation of an international river, we can learn a lot, but we also have to reflect how differently we will have to do it. So when we looked at this program, primarily we looked at three major envelopes. One could be the pollution abatement. Second could be the ecological. I mean, the pollution abatement will be more about the quality of water. Then you look at the quantity of water, ecology, the aquatic life, the biodiversity and several other things. And then we also look at river and people connect, because that is very important. We all know the civilization start on the bank of river, but sometimes the cities become so big that river starts getting lost somewhere in between. So, I think that connect has to be restored. In case of Ganga, the connect is actually quite strong, but when I talk of Ganga here, when I talk of Namami Gange, I talk of Ganga and all its tributaries, because we are having a kind of basin approach. So, the mission is not only for Ganga, it is also applicable for all the tributaries, and some of the tributaries we all know have huge problems of their health, Yamuna, Hindan, Kali. I mean, these are the rivers where perhaps we have a very long way to go. Now, so when we conceptualize this kind of program, a very integrated program, it becomes very akin to achieving different SDGs. I mean, moving towards different SDGs, and then perhaps I will be taking few examples about what has been our approach and how we are trying to do things little differently, do things keeping sustainability in our mind for the future. Now, we are all here, and I will start with SDG 6, because water and sanitation, that's something which is very directly comes into our mind. Now, if you look at SDG 6, drinking water is the first one, but later on we have sanitation. The SDG 6 also talks quite a lot about not just bringing drinking water to everyone's doorstep or improving sanitation or having a universal coverage of sanitation, which we have done in the Swachh Bharat mission. It also talks about what we can do about water use efficiency, because that's a very important thing. And then it also talks about protection and restoration of water ecosystem. Now, as far as improving the quality of water is concerned, as we all know, the major challenge for the river and river like Ganga is the municipal sewage. And second source of contamination will be industrial pollutants and then the solid waste. Our focus has been upon sewerage infrastructure right from the first mission, but here what we have done, we tried to look at that what exactly is the challenge. And then the challenge is it's easy to construct an STP, it's very difficult to operate and maintain. So, I think we went with an idea that we will go for a kind of long-term operation and maintenance as part of our approach. Whatever we have done earlier, we also did a kind of condition assessment of all the previous infrastructure. Again, this mission is a little different from the other mission, because here we are also looking at old infrastructure and carrying them forward. And so, we are restoring or rehabilitating the old infrastructure and then making new infrastructure based upon the gap analysis. And while doing it, we are putting 15-year O&M as part of the construction, as part of the project. So, anyone who takes this project will be responsible for running the project properly and then bringing that efficiency. And subsequently, we further improved this by introducing public-private partnership through hybrid annuity mode of investment, where the investor or the concessionaire basically gets 40% during the construction and 60% he gets in the annuity. Idea was not so much from the point of view of the resource at that point of time, it was more to improve performance. So, the contract does not become, the contract basically becomes performance oriented, because the same agency will get his money back only when he will be meeting the standards. So, I think that was another issue. When we started the project at that time, of all the previous interventions, we were having 28 projects. Now, we have got 150 sewerage projects. In the mission, there are so many other projects. And I am very happy that several of these projects are nearing completion. In Uttarakhand, we would be almost completing all our projects, and more or less the untreated waste getting into the river would be checked by March. Similarly, UP also is moving ahead. Of course, UP we have a huge challenge, it will take little longer, but several issues are getting that. Solid waste is another major issue. For that, we are actually working with the Swachh Bharat mission, urban and Gramin both the sites, and that's a big fillip to us, because through them we are able to get this thing. What we did a kind of mapping of all the villages and all the urban areas, and then all the villages along the Ganga. Initially we took them, and then they become ODF before perhaps the other villages could also get into that. As here and in many of the other SDGs, the wetlands become a very important thing. So, in 2016 end, government came up with, we came up with a kind of very comprehensive order giving certain regulatory as well as long-term vision into this program, where you look into various aspects of rejuvenation of floodplains, protection of floodplains, groundwater versus surface water and all those issues as well. Very briefly, I will touch upon goal number 11. There was a very excellent presentation about housing, because urbanization, sustainable cities, communities, they are very important. They are going to be the growth engine of our economy. But at the same time, if we forget sustainability, they are also becoming a major challenge for the environment. And that's what this river has been seeing. So what's perhaps very important is, we are talking of 15-year and funding from Government of India and creating infrastructure. But will it work further? The only thing which will work, if the city administration, if the master plans, if the urban planning starts looking at these kind of issues and integrate sanitation and water and the river and environment into the urban planning. We require houses, but simply construction of houses is not real housing, it's not real habitat improvement. And that's why what we are doing in this project, we are trying to bring a kind of integrated water management, and integrated water management by creating a kind of urban river management plan. The idea is the city administration should look at the city, what kind of rainfall you get, what kind of water you draw from the river, what kind of sewage or municipal wastewater, and in what quality you are sending it back. So I think this is a kind of approach which is needed at the city level administration, and then we with the help of Housing and Urban Affairs Ministry and other agency and experts, we are interacting with several experts on this, trying to develop a kind of model urban river management plan, a kind of toolkit, a kind of guideline we are developing for protection of urban wetlands, because a lot of problem is happening of encroachment, urban flooding. So unless we get into the urban planning very holistically and bring river into that, perhaps SDG 6 and SDG 11 have to go together, and then this mission, through some of the activities we are trying to get into that. Goal 11 also talks about heritage. It also talks about city heritage, conservation and all that. And what is perhaps more important than Ganga when we look up the heritage? So what we are doing, we are trying to, in this mission, we are developing a kind of very comprehensive cultural mapping of this river. This will consist of built heritage. This also consists of natural heritage. There is lots of environmental heritage there along this great river. So we are trying to document them. We are trying to also document intangible heritage, the music, the kind of painting, the kind of other art form which is there in this basin. So we are doing that with the help of INTAC and some other expert institutions, universities. Also international help is coming up in that. So that's something which will be also improving the cities and their understanding of water. Because someone very rightly said, when the city grows, but city grows so much, then the river sometimes gets lost. That's true of Yamuna in Delhi. Not everywhere, but Delhi, many people don't even know how to reach the river. That kind of, we are trying to turn our back to the river, so that has to be changed. Quickly, goal 12 talks about responsible consumption and production, and it talks about reuse, recycle. Our basic approach has been to promote that. That's a kind of policy in Namami Gange, that we will try to reuse the treated wastewater to the maximum extent possible. And then some innovative projects have come up here, where we are trying, we have tied up in Mathura, 20 million liters per day treated wastewater is being sold to Indian Oil Corporation. They are investing into this project, and similar kind of tie-ups are happening with other industries, with agriculture, with the state governments developing agricultural system to get this water back. Similarly, some of the projects, some of the recent projects are modern projects. They are also looking at generating their own power in the STP based upon the sludge and other materials. So I think this is very important. Industrial pollution also, we are actually very strictly following that. Paper and pulp and several other industries, apart from ETPs and monitoring, we are also trying to improve the technology of the processing. So that you utilize less water, reuse, recycle it, so that your effluent generation becomes much less. And then the lesser the effluent, the lesser will be the cost and efforts to treat them to the standard. So these things are happening. Very rightly, several examples have been given. Everyone has talked about climate change. Goal 13. Namami Gange is a program where on a very scientific basis we have taken up catchment area treatment. Earlier, cleaning of the river never thought of these issues, but here we have got a very huge, we take up Forest Research of Institute and we got a DPR developed for entire length of river. Primarily what they looked at, what kind of native species were there. So basically it's looking at natural river escape, it's looking at agricultural river escape and also looking at the urban river escape, and then a very detailed plan of action including land details, species details, planting methods, that has been done, and then the work started. We are now seeking the support of CAMPA funds from MOEF to carry it forward. We initiated this process in this mission. This is, afforestation is one of the major strategy of climate action in our country, apart from energy and other sectors. This is also one of the major example of looking at climate change, and then this Namami Ganga mission has triggered it, and I am very happy to tell you that MOEF, based upon the experience of Ganga, now they are developing similar kind of detailed plan of action DPR for 13 more rivers in the country. So I think we are moving in that direction where a very huge scientific catchment area plantation, forestation would take place, and then it will help us. Environmental flow was another thing we have done. We have recently, last year we declared it for Ganga, but we are also working for other rivers, and that's going to further help us. Wetlands are very important. When we look at river in this program, we look it in an integrated way. So wetlands, other things are part of the river system. So recently in UP, which is the largest 1,000 kilometer of Ganga passes through UP, we have now surveyed 10 kilometers along the river and then identified the wetlands, and so there are 126 wetlands, 101 are within 5 kilometers. So we have now taken up development of integrated management plan for these wetlands, and then as and when we will be getting it next 6 months, we will be doing conservation measures, because this can bring water back. We all depend, I mean, India is different from many other countries because the number of rainy days are limited, and due to climate change, even that fluctuation is also sometimes very heavy, sometimes very less. So that's a very important thing. Similarly, life under water, life on land, aquatic life conservation. So these are all part of our scheme, and then we are working. And last but not the least, the goal 17. That's a kind of main philosophy behind this program. We have to collaborate, we have to partner. One mission at government level or a state level won't be enough. So we have to partner, we have to collaborate, and then we have several international partnership, we have several local partnership, and then several programs to really connect with the people and bring them together. As one very rightly again said, that the best thing is stop making it dirty, so that you don't have to invest to clean it up later. So that should be the motive, and that's the perhaps thing which will be really helping us in the future. So thank you.